Well, let's see. Do you know what that is? Yeah. You know what that is? Okay. How many of you use these kind of things very often? Y'all do you use those all the time? Okay. Yeah, me too. I use them all the time. And actually, okay, technically, this is not an emoticon, right? This is an emoji, okay? That is an emoticon. Technically, so there's like emojis, there's emoticons, there's like new stuff, I don't even know. I find it all very, very confusing, personally, because there's just all these different terms. I don't know what they necessarily mean, but actually, I even get confused with some of the stuff. Like on my phone, there is like 100 different of these little smiley yellow faces, and I don't know what half of them mean, and sometimes people send them to me, and I have to like Google, what did they just send me? Like one time somebody sent me this thing, and it was a smiley face, or a face, I guess, and it had like white stuff like blowing out of its nose like this, okay? And I was like, does this mean he has bad allergies? Is that representing snot? Apparently it means you're mad. I don't know. I was confused. I didn't really understand what all that was about. But I do find that emojis, emoticons, whatever, are very, very helpful for a lot of different situations. They help me express what I'm thinking. So, like if a friend tells me a joke, right, or just says something funny in a text message or something, and I could just respond back with this. What does this mean? Yeah, crying so hard, or laughing so hard you're crying, right? I think that's what it's supposed to be. So yeah, it's like that. And so, somebody says something to me and I'm like, haha, and I put this on there. And so what the message sounds like I'm going, ha ha, but really my face is like this. You know what I mean? You're like, LOL, so funny. Like, and you're not even smiling. You'll know you do that. But you're like communicating something to people. They really come in handy. It really helps you though to like, because texting is scary because like sometimes you say something to somebody and they read it the wrong way. So like someone was asking, we're talking about going to eat. We're talking about where to go. And my friend suggested a place. And so I said, sure. And then after a minute, I thought, uh-oh, what if he reads it like, sure, like whatever, like that place is nasty, sure, I'll go, sure. So I sent that, which now the text says this, sure, like, yeah, I like this. Okay, so it helps clarify things, and hopefully that's how you use them. That's how I use them to make sure that people understand what I'm talking about. And I like getting emojis or emoticon, whatever they are. I like getting those things. They make me feel good. So the other day I'm at work, right, and it's been a long day, and I'm texting my wife, and so I take a selfie, and I send it to my wife, and she sends back this. And I'm like, my wife thinks I'm sexy, all right, Which made me very emoji-confident, by the way, and I felt much better about that. And so, yeah, maybe you like getting those. In fact, I don't know what it is. Like, girls are always putting those little heart things on other girls' posts on Instagram. It's like 1,500 of those. I don't know what the deal is with that, but it's like a thing. We use those. And then, like, really, these things, the best thing about them is they're just emoji convenient, okay? And you're thinking, well, I have so many of these, I'm not gonna use them all, but anyways, it's very convenient because like sometimes somebody sends you a message and you don't wanna like type out a response and like you wanna say okay, but just saying okay seems kind of like, I don't know, like you didn't really care. So you wanna be a little bit better, so I like it. I just go, huh. Okay? If you text me, you get these all the time because I'm like, yeah. Because I'm saying okay, but it's like a better okay. It's a thumbs up okay. Like, who can be upset with a thumbs up? And so they're really convenient, all these things. But the one I use the most is this one. Just a smiley face, the most generic one that I can get. I know there's like 15 smiley faces now, but I just send the regular one because I'm generally happy. Are you happy? Yeah. Okay, do you like to be happy? Yes. You want to be happy? Look at the person next to you and say, I'm happy you're here. So I use this one the most because I'm happy and I want to communicate that with people that I'm happy. And in fact, one of my favorite verses in all the Bible has to do with being happy. And it's written by a guy named David. And he just said this about being happy. He said, happy are the people whose God is the Lord. And he's like, hey, when the true God is the one that you're serving, when you're giving your life to him, you're happy. And the thing is, I know that we want to be happy. You want to be happy. I want to be happy. It's like there's nobody I've ever met that didn't want to be happy. And so if we want to be happy, and he says that the people whose God is the Lord is happy, why are so many people not happy? Why do we go through so many days where we're not, like where we're down, where we're stressed, where we're, all these we're angry, we're worried, whatever these things are. Why do we go through so many times when we're not happy? If we want to be happy, you would think it'd be something that we could accomplish. And so I want us to kind of figure out one reason is kind of obvious. because you have bad days, am I right? Oh, you don't have them? Okay, I do. In fact, I was reading about this guy's bad day, and it was so bad, I thought I would actually just read his day to you. Let me know if you have a day that's ever gone something like this. This was in a newspaper in Florida, and so this is what happened. A man was working on his motorcycle on his patio, and his wife was in the kitchen. He was racing the engine on the motorcycle when it accidentally slipped into gear. The man was still holding onto the handlebars. He was dragged through the patio doors, through the glass, and along with the motorcycle, and was dumped on the floor inside the house. The wife, hearing the crash, ran into the dining room and found her husband lying on the floor, cut and bleeding. She ran and called the ambulance, and because they were up on a very high hill, she went all the way down all these steps that they had, waited for the paramedics, walked them up all the steps. The ambulance came, got him in, pushed the motorcycle like outside of the house, and they took him to the hospital. Well, she real quick, she noticed there was gas all over the floor, and so she grabbed some paper towels, wiped them all up, and just threw them in the toilet real quick and headed to the hospital. And so her husband gets treated and comes home. Upon arriving home, he looked at the shattered patio door and the damage done to his motorcycle. He became despondent, went to the bathroom, sat down on the toilet to smoke a cigarette. After finished the cigarette, he flipped it between his legs into the toilet bowl while seated. The wife, who was in the kitchen, heard the loud explosion and her husband scream. She ran into the bathroom and found her husband lying on the floor. His trousers had been blown away, and he was suffering from burns on his buttocks, back, legs, and other. And the wife, again ran to the phone to call the ambulance, and the same crew came. They loaded her husband up and was walking him down the stairs and asked what had happened. When she told the paramedics how he had been burned, they started laughing so hard that one of them slipped, dropping the stretcher, dropping the husband down. He fell down the remaining flight of stairs and broke his arm. Okay. Now that's a bad day, okay? I don't know if you've had one of those. And here's the thing. If you were not happy on a day like that, we would all go, you cannot be happy. That makes sense. I understand why you're not happy. Because there's something that we maybe have noticed about happiness, and that is this, okay? Here's something you need to know, and that is that happiness depends on what's happening. Okay, you are happy if what's happening is good. If what's happening, if you're getting blown off, like with an explosion, okay, getting blown up, it makes sense that you're not going to be happy because happiness depends on what is happening. You know, if what's happening in your life is good, then you're going to be happy. You know, you don't have any homework that night. I'm happy, right? You made a good grade on a test. You're happy. You just got a new job. Happy. You got a new phone. Happy. Got a great new relationship. Happy, right? You're beating everybody on Call of Duty. Happy. Whatever it is for you, it makes you happy. Like these things are happening. But the opposite is true. When things are not happening right, when things are not happening good, we're not happy. You got in a new relationship, but they turned out to be a jerk, right? You got a new job, but your boss won't let you off when you want to. You got a raise, and then, gas prices went up or your car broke down. Like, it's like there's this one thing after another. Sometimes it feels like you got a new phone, but you cracked the screen. You were beating everybody on Call of Duty, but you got killed by an 8-year-old camper in the corner, right? Like, there's always something that can, ruin the thing. And so here's the thing with happiness, depending on what is happening, there's so much of the time there's something happening that takes your happiness. Now, we read that happy are the people whose God is the Lord. And that is an important thing because what you'll discover in life is that following Jesus will make you better at life and make your life better. And there's so much of what he teaches that helps us to learn to be happy, that teaches us the right way to live. And when we do that, we avoid so much of the things that happen wrong. But that's not even what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about something better than just trying to get all of our happenings right. Something that is even better than trying to figure out making sure everything happens just right so I can be happy, because that's not really the goal and not really going to ever happen. There will always be some troubles. And so what I want to talk about is something better, and it is this word right here, something that Jesus taught all the time, something his disciples taught all the time, and that is joy. Joy is much different and much better than happiness. Now, it may sound like I'm just kind of making stuff up, but I'll help you understand it a little bit. Joy is something that is internal. Happiness is something that is external. Happiness depends on what is happening, but joy depends on something inside. Joy, you ever heard someone thinking they've got the joy down in their heart? Yeah. Down in your heart to stay, right? It's because there's a joy that is in you. Some of you are like, what are they doing? There's like a song that some of us sang, anyways. We have this joy that is inside. And here's the thing. Joy is something that can last even in troubles. Now, even when things aren't going well, even when what's happening is bad, you can learn to have and experience lasting joy. Yeah, I want to be happy. That's great. But having joy is even better, because then when the happy times come, they're just even better. So I want to talk about joy. And there's a guy named Paul who wrote a lot about joy, and he really helps us to understand what it looks like. So that's what we're going to take a look at for a few minutes, is how that we can learn to have joy. So this is Paul and what he says about it. 2 Corinthians 7:4. He says, in all our troubles, my joy knows no bounds. Now I just want to start here and look, seems like doesn't work, right? Troubles and joy in the same sentence. Like most people, when something is not happening good, they're not happy. But what he's talking about, hey, even in all my troubles, even when I have all kinds of stuff going wrong, I have joy. And so can you. In fact, I wanted to just briefly share with you some of his troubles. He makes that poor Florida guy look like he had a good day, okay? Here's some of what Paul writes about himself. He says, I have worked much harder, been in prison more frequently. Have you been in prison? I hope not. I've been flogged more severely. Flogged, that doesn't sound that bad, right? Flogged, okay? That just means that somebody beat you, okay? I've been exposed to death again and again. 5 times I received from the Jews 40 lashes minus 1, which means he was whipped 39 times 5 times, okay? And it's hard to imagine being whipped, but you probably won't know what this is. Does anybody know what a twitchy switch is? It's probably not, because it's considered child abuse now, but it wasn't when I was a kid. And my grandmother, I was actually never twitchy switched because I saw it happen to my cousin, and so I was smart enough to never mess up around my grandmother. So one time he was misbehaving, and so she says, go out in the backyard. She breaks a little branch off the tree, and what they do is they take all the leaves off the branch, so all it has left is little spikes that were left from the leaves, and then they have you spread your legs out and go to your legs and go, and my cousin was like, woo! He just started, because it's like whipping his legs. Okay, yeah, it was maybe child abuse, I don't know. Anyways, so he was whipped, which is way worse than what I just talked about. Many times. He probably had scars on his back for the rest of his life from that. Okay. 3 times I was beaten with rods. I mean, you can imagine someone just getting a bat and beating you, okay? That's what he says. Once I was stoned. Some of you are thinking, hey, I have that in common with Paul. No, different stoned, okay. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I would just stop getting in a boat. Okay, I spent a night and day in the open sea. I've been constantly on the move. I have been in danger from rivers, danger from bandits, danger from my countrymen, danger from Gentiles, danger in the city, danger in the country, danger in the sea, danger. He's been in danger a lot. Okay, I have labored and toiled and have gone without sleep. I've gone hungry and thirsty and have gone without food. I have been cold and naked. And listen, he had all kinds of stuff. He had every reason to say, you know what, life is just terrible. I don't have any happiness. I don't have any joy. But in spite of all of this, things that we honestly can't even fathom happening in our lives, he was able to say this, in all our troubles, my joy knows no bounds. Is that possible? Is it possible for you to say, hey, in spite of what is going on in my life, I can lay down tonight and have joy? I can experience joy. Now, I don't think he's like in the middle of being whipped going, oh, this is great. Okay, now that would just be weird, okay? And I'm not saying he was getting beaten with a rod and going, oh yeah, this is awesome, okay? No, that's weird. But he was able to find joy and keep joy even in all of his troubles. And so can you. With the things that you will face and have to face in your life, you can have joy and experience it in your life. So I want to help you understand. So we're going to do it like this. If we think about this. So where does joy not come from? Where does joy not come from? So did you ever, maybe y'all didn't do this when you were a kid. When I was a kid, people did this thing, okay, like elementary age, where they would say something like, hey man, I got you a Dr. Pepper. And they'd be like, oh man, thanks. They go, not. And they would drink it, right? Or they'd be like, hey, I like your shirt. Oh, thanks. Not. It's ugly. Okay, it's like, so they would tell you something like, hey, this is going to be good. And as soon as you're like, yes, they're going to be like, not. Okay, like that. Did y'all do that? Y'all going to start doing that to your friends now? Okay, anyways. So they would do this thing. And it is very similar to what a lot of things look like in our life. You have this idea, you see this thing, and you think it's going to be what gives you joy, and then you get it, and it's like, not. Hey, if I can just get a new phone, I'm finally going to be happy. Not. If I can just get in a relationship, oh, then everything will be better. I'll be like complete if I'm in a relationship. And you get in a relationship and it's like, oh, there's even more drama in life with the relationship. Not, okay? It's like it's not going to be better. And all of a sudden we find that the things that we thought were going to bring us happiness and bring us joy just don't really last. In fact, it's something that always amazes me. I've read these stories over and over again of guys who have won the Super Bowl and men and women who have won gold medals and people who have gotten more money than I can even imagine owning and having. And they write and say things over and over again about how after they achieved it, after they got their dream, they felt so empty. That there was this longing, there was something not there. They thought that this thing would satisfy, but it didn't. Because none of those things are permanent. It's like Dr. Pepper. Okay, I should have brought one. It's like someone put happiness in a can, you know? You know that sound it makes when you open, right? That one right there, the I love that sound. In fact, but in my house, we have to be careful because if I make that sound, my little 3-year-old daughter will come running from anywhere in the house. I want some. And I'm like, now I have to share it. Like, that's like taking happiness away. And so I'm literally cough and like slam cabinet doors when I open and like, opening so she can't hear me. Anyways, and so look, here's the thing. When I'm drinking a Dr. Pepper, I feel happy. It makes me feel good, okay? But is that a lasting happiness? No. If you're eating a bowl of ice cream, maybe that's your thing. Is that lasting happiness? Of course not. You're like, well, if I could just eat ice cream all day, every day, I could stay happy. Right, yeah, and then in a couple of years when you weigh 850 pounds and have to use a bedpan, right, and you're going to be dead by the time you're 35, yeah, you're going to be super happy then, aren't you? You see, that's silly, okay? But so much of the times this is what we think. If I can just get enough stuff, that I can just stay happy. If I can just get enough of these things, then I can just stay happy. And maybe the best example of why this doesn't work comes from a guy named Solomon. I don't know if you've heard about him in the Old Testament. He was a king. And I don't know if you know this. Some of you have heard of him. He was loaded, okay? It says that he received every year 666 talents of gold, which means nothing to you. That's 25 tons of gold, or about $1 billion a year worth of gold every year. They say that his house, if they were to convert it to modern day money, his house would cost about $3 billion. Like Bill Gates' house would be a bathroom in his place, okay? Like he was loaded, and that's just the gold, okay? He had so much other stuff too. So he had so much money. He had power. He was the king of the most powerful nation in the world at the time. He was in charge. He had power and popularity. Everybody wanted to know him. And he had relationships. Every time I say this out loud, it sounds weird, but he had 700 wives. In other words, if he saw a pretty girl, he got her. That's how it went. Okay, he just had all that he wanted. So, I mean, if money and popularity and success and fame and relationships and sex and all that could make you happy, it would be him. But then we get this book called Ecclesiastes. I encourage you to read it sometime. It is one of the most amazing books in the entire Bible. And you read and you see this guy, Solomon wrote it. And this is what he says. He says, meaningless, everything is meaningless. And you read about this guy who got everything you could imagine and was empty. In the end, he just felt like nothing was satisfying him because he had looked to everything else. And it doesn't surprise me, and it shouldn't really surprise you. I mean, when I was in high school, okay, my senior year was my last chance for our high school band to make state. And it had been a dream for 4 years to make state. They had made it 5 years earlier, or whatever, when I was in 8th grade. And now it was it. This is it. We're either going to make it or we're not. We had tried, and finally here it is. And we go to area, and we make state. And it felt amazing. we jumped, we cried, we ran around, we were on just this emotional high. It was amazing. But you know what? Winning and making state, 2 months later, when I got a letter from the college I was going to attend that I had lost a scholarship that meant I was going to not get thousands of dollars, I didn't go, it's okay, I made state, okay?